Hi everyone, it's Nancy McNally, NancyMcNallyQuilts.com, and today we are working on month 6 of Bumbleberry Pie, and I called this block Nuts and Bolts because I truly did not know the real name for this quilt block. So I found out what the real name of it is, and it's called Jack in the Box. I think that's what it's called. So anyway, all right, so let's grab your pattern and let's get started. We're going to begin with making our flying geese. So I have my A triangles and my D. Now I don't have my letter D because it has fallen back behind my sewing desk and I cannot get to it. So this is letter D. Now as you can see, I've already made the green and the berry purple, and I think this is called Hampshire green. Yeah, Hampshire green and berry purple flying geese, but I'm going to show you how to make this one. So let's get started. This is very, very easy. Let's move our half square triangles. There we go. So you're going to take your A triangles, and remember, these are bias. As soon as we cut the square on one diagonal or even two diagonals, you now have exposed the bias. The bias is that center line right in here that will cause the triangle to stretch and warp if you pull and tug on it too much. So you need to treat it with a light hand. And then again, this is also bias. This is a bias triangle. Now our colors, we cut them on the diagonal, on both diagonals, so across both ways, making an X. So this is either the straight or the cross grain, which is good. That won't stretch. But these two right here will stretch. So what we need to do is we need to secure that bias so that it won't stretch. So we're going to take our A triangle. We're going to go right sides together. No offsetting, just line tip to tip, right sides together. And then sew. You do have to flip the triangle in place and press before you can sew on the second triangle. All right, let's get this one sewn. All right, as you can see, I have this one sewn. You start here at the edge and you work off, and when you get close to right here, your stitches should be close to where the A triangle crosses over the D triangle. So now we're going to flip it in place and press. Okay, now for the next step. Again, we're going to go right sides together. So I'm going to flip that over. We're going to line that triangle tip to triangle tip. And get that lined up. Just finger it very gently to get it to move. If you need to put a clip or a pin in place to hold it, then by all means, go right ahead. And notice how I kind of put the pin a little further down. I didn't put it in the seam allowance because sometimes that warps them a little bit. All right, and notice how this triangle, the tip of this one is going past our other one that we just sewn, and that's the way it's supposed to look. So when you sew your 1/4 inch seam along this edge right here, let me see if I can grab, there, hang on one second, there we go. So when we sew our 1/4 inch seam, as we approach here, our seam allowance, or excuse me, our stitching should end up somewhere in this little intersection right here, very close to it. Okay, so here we go. And see where my stitches fell? Right there, and that's perfect. All right, so now let's flip it in place. So when you flip it in place, you are going to press it, but if this edge and this edge don't line up, that means your seam allowances are not correct, or you didn't cut the fabric square and cut it on the diagonal the correct way. All right, there you go. And your next step, you can use your rotary cutter or scissors, it doesn't matter. You want to trim these little triangle extensions off, and don't forget to make sure that these measure the correct size, which is listed in the pattern. All right, so you're going to make 4 of these purple ones, the berry purple, and then 4 of the Hampshire green. So in our next step, we're making half square triangles. So let's do that. So now you're going to grab your E squares. You're going to draw a diagonal line on the back side of the background fabric, the tone on tone, the white. It's one of those days. All right, we're going to sew a 1/4 inch away from that drawn line on both sides of that drawn line. Once we sew these, you will need to cut them apart and trim down to the correct size. All right, so here we go. I have sewn a 1/4 inch away from the drawn line on both sides of the drawn line. I'm going to grab my rotary cutter and a ruler, and I will cut these apart. So now we're going to cut directly apart on the drawn line. And our next step is you're going to open them up, because this method makes 2 at a time. You're going to open them up and press. Let me get these pressed. And now it's time to trim. All right, so you're going to trim to the size listed in the pattern. So what I do is I use a creative grid ruler, and I take the 45-degree line and I line it right up where the 2 fabrics come together, the seam. And then I pull it all the way down to this corner down here, and hopefully I just have to trim here and here. But you know what? If you have to trim here and on this side, it's okay. Just make sure that the fabric is lined up with the ruler on the correct measurement as you trim. Okay, so if I were to trim, I would rotate that around, and now I know I haven't trimmed that side because that's still there. I would realign the ruler, doing the same thing as I did before, and trim off the excess over there. Grab this one, and then it's going to be time to pull the block together. Now this one I have to trim on both sides, so there's some extending past the line here and up here, so, and a little bit down here. See if I can maneuver that. Nope, I got to keep that line. You have to keep the 45 on the seam allowance, directly on that. So I'm going to do that. Okay, and now let's trim this side over here. Very good. I know that was just a tiny bit, but I promise you it adds up in the long run, and then your block won't go together nicely. All right, for the block construction, this is very easy. For each block, you're going to need 2 purple, or 2 berry purple, sorry, I keep saying that wrong. 2 berry purple flying geese and 2 Hampshire green flying geese. 2 of the Wiltshire greens, that's the lighter green, 2 lavenders, and then 4 of the yellow and 4 of the yellow. You will need 4 of the pink, the carnival pink bees, and then for the E's, you will need 1 each, sorry. Is that right side up? Yep, that's right side up. Sometimes these are hard to tell. All right, so I'm going to lay 1 block out. Okay, we're going to begin with the center. Now we need to pull it all together. So the first thing you're going to do is we're going to do this top section up here. And the same method that I'm doing here is you're going to do in all the other corners. Now, these seams are going to nest. So that's perfect. And remember, you're sewing right here. If you forget, place it back down and do it again. And another little tip to help you, keep your fingers on the side you're going to sew and place a pin. So if you want to chain piece these, you can. Here, let's do this one again. Now I'm going to press. Place it back where it belongs. Now for our next step is you're going to join the flying geese to our paired half square triangles and do that all the way around. And the next step is, it's very easy. After you do all those and you press, you're going to join all the units for each row. Very simple. Row 1, row 2, row 3, and then you're going to join the rows together. I'm going to get mine prepared and finished, and I will meet you back here in a moment. All right, I have my nuts and bolts, aka Jack in the Box, quilt block together. You're going to make 2 of these. I already have everything cut, obviously, to do the second one, but this is how you do the first one. All right, now, here's one thing I want you to remember. When you begin to join the top row to this center section right here, don't line up out here and pin or just slap it under the machine. What you want to do is you want to line up these seams right here, these 2 center seams right here. Line those up, pin it, and then if you still want to pin out here and pin out here. That way, when you go to sew it, your center section will line up. Repeat that when you're joining the bottom row to the center row. Line up these centers right here, and everything will fall into place, and it'll look like you didn't make any mistakes. All right, thank you everyone for joining me today. Hope you have a wonderful day. And if you would like to learn more information about Bumbleberry Pie, tell your local quilt shop that you would like to have this as a block of the month, or maybe they would like to sell it as a kit. All they have to do is reach out to me. All right, everyone, have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time for the next block of Bumbleberry Pie.